customer for pants. And it's a little delicate to do that, so there are a few things that you really have to be careful what to do and what not to do. So one thing is, you always want to stand kind of sideways to the customer when you do all the measurements. Never stand right in front of them or in the back, like hidden behind, because it's always a little makes people nervous, you know, if you stand right behind them and do something and they don't know what what to expect. So always be kind of sideways to not be too intrusive and not be hidden. So then the very first thing that we want to do, we want to define the waistline, and that is because most of the measurements that we need to do, they start at the waist and then are measured down from there. So it is important to always start with the same line. And for many people, the waist is basically the most narrow part in the body. For some people, it's not the most narrow part, but we still have to define it. And if it's not the most narrow part of the body, then we will just look where the belly button is and go kind of an inch above the belly button. So, and I will define it by wrapping a little strap around it, so that I always have the same starting point. So here. Okay. Just see that it's straight. There's your belly button. Here. Okay. Okay, so that's basically a good starting point. So the first measurement that we do is around the waist, and we will just go around here and be right on that piece of strap that we put in. So then we overlap our measuring tape. You know, the way to do it, we just hold the end here, and then we overlap it here, and where it overlaps, without pulling it or, you know, like any don't make it too tight, don't make it too loose. There should not be anything in between, or because some people, they say, oh yeah, and then there has to be one finger width in between, but we go right on point. We do all that other things later. So we look at the number here and then we write that down. So the next measurement that we want to do is the high hip and then the low hip. The high hip is not so much important for menswear, it's more important for women's wear, because they need those measurements more. So, but I will do all of them. So the high hip will be 4.5 inches below the waist. If the person is very tall, then you can do 5 inches, but like let's do just 4.5. So we measure 4.5 inch down. And you can either, you know, like put a little marker there as well, but like in this case, it's right below the belt. So I'll just keep it like that all the way around, just below the belt. Same thing, I hold my measuring tape, I drag that overlap, and then that's where it overlaps, that's my number. And I will write that down as my high hip number. So the next measurement that we need is the low hip. That is from our waist, it's 8.5 inches down. If your customer is very tall, it would be 9 inches. And very tall means 6 feet 3 and above. You're like really a tall person. So I'll go down 8.5 inches here. So I make a reference, you know, where it is about, and then I just go all the way around like that. Sometimes you also read that people use the widest part in the body, and no matter where it is, because sometimes the widest part of the hip is further down or further up. So I will just go with the industry standard now, and that is used for all the dress forms and like ready to wear. Same thing, you hold the measuring tape and then it overlaps and you read that number. So this is our low hip. And then from the low hip, what we do in menswear, we ask like where would be your preferred pant height, or where, you know, do you love to have your pants? Like for example, these here, would you like them a little lower, a little higher, or is that fine?
It's fine.
Fine. So I would measure exactly where his preferred pant line would be, and that's the top of this here. Same thing. And then I write down that number. The reason is because men, they don't want to play around with the waistline or the you know, waistband too much. They don't want to have high-waisted pants or very low-waisted pants. That is more of a women's fashion thing. So, and for men, they like one style and then they stick with it. So, right?
Mostly, yes.
Okay, so the next, what we would measure is the out seam or outside seam. And this is from our waist all the way down to the floor. For that, it would be good to remove the shoes. Have that all the way to the floor in a straight line. And then measure that. And the next would be the inseam or the inside seam. And this would be the same on the inside of the body. And because I don't want to fiddle around with my customer, I mean, I would do that with my husband, but not with my customer. And so I would ask your help to hold the end of the measuring tape right at the crotch point. So don't hold it below anything, or, you know, just right where the crotch point would be. And then I measure down here to the ground for the inseam. Okay? So let go. And so these two measurements, also I subtract the inseam from the outseam to get another measurement. That's the crotch depth. Like it's 45 on the outside, 33 on the inside. So it's like 12. Right. So 12 would be the crotch depth. The crotch length is another measurement that we do, and that's also a very delicate thing because we don't want to fiddle around in this area here. We don't want to get too close or touch. So that's why the customer needs to help us. So he will grab the measuring tape and put it right at the waistband here, right there where the waistband is. And I let the measuring tape drop. And then I come in from this side and grab the measuring tape below the knee somewhere. So don't be above the knee. So everything above the knee is totally off limits for us. So I grab it, I pull it up, and I get it all the way to the back at the same level at the waistband. Okay, you can let go. So then I have this measurement here, that's the crotch length. So this goes all the way around. That's what we need. Then the next is our knee. So first we measure the length from our waist to the knee, and we will look for the middle of the kneecap for that. So I hold my measuring tape right here, and then, nice that you wear short pants today. So that's the kneecap. It's kind of a little, it's like 3-4 inches long, and we aim for the center of it. So this length here is important. And the next length would be to go around the knee, exactly where the middle of the kneecap is. So that's another measurement. So this is the circumference of the knee. Then we start at the center of the knee, and we will measure the thigh and the calf. So the thigh is also an industry standard. It goes 8 inches above the knee. So first we measure 8 inches above, also center of the kneecap. So it's around here, and I can just make a note that it's right below, like half an inch below that pocket. And again, it would be kind of a little intrusive if I fiddle around there. So I do the same thing what I did before. I grab my measuring tape down here, and then I just slide it to the point where I just need to measure. Okay, so this is my thigh measurement. Then we do something similar below the knee for the calf. And this is also an industry standard number. It's 5 inches below the kneecap. So we go down 5 inches here. And then around with the tape. Measure that. Okay. So this one, the base, and then the last one would be the base around here, but we don't need to measure that. It's more a general idea of having a sloper shape, which means it is kind of a narrow pant, not too wide, not too narrow, and it should not be right around the ankle. So we always want a little extra for pants. So we usually just take either 15 or 17 inches or 16, and that's how we make the sloper. And then from there, we will develop the different style for the pants. So these are all the measurements that we need. So when you're finished, you can say thank you to your customer.
Thank you.
So I say thank you to you. So give me back my little strap here. And so we are ready to go. So the next would be to calculate all those numbers and then make the sloper.